Hey guys, a quick little intro video on this Voge 525 DSX. I've just had it dropped off by MotoGB, the importer of Voge, who just said, do you want to try it for a week? So yeah, I was quite interested. Obviously I'm interested in some 47 brake horsepower bikes. This is one of the twin cylinder parallel twin engine bikes in this class, of which there are quite a few now. You know, obviously the ringleader is the NX 500 by Honda. I guess that's the kingpin, and then we've got the Benelli TRK 502. We've got the soon to come out Cove 510, which is a rebadged version of the Macbor Montana XR5, which has done very, very well in Spain. What else we've got? We've got the Raiju 500 as well. So there's a few bikes floating around in this twin cylinder 500cc capacity. They all use a derivative of the Honda engine, so it's not too different to that. If you've ridden that Honda CB500X or NX, you'll feel similarities with this. This has been taken out to 494cc, so it's not a 525, it's a 494, but power and torque figures are largely the same as the Honda. I guess what the selling point of this bike is it offers a lot more kit for your money. So it's 5995 plus 200 on the road, so 62, but it comes with everything you see. So we've got the full gamut of top boxes and panniers. We've got adjustable KYB suspension. We have got a TFT screen, adjustable screen. We've got tubeless spoke wheels with tyre pressure sensors. We've got a 17.5 litre tank. We've got a centre stand. We've got fog lights. We've got crash bars. We've even got a camera at the front as almost like a dash cam. I'm not sure how that all works. Got adjustable levers. You know, it's a really well equipped bike, and I guess that's its selling point. The equivalent Honda would be about £9,000. On eBay, if you go, there are some dealers who spec'd up NX 500s to sort of similar levels with the panniers, the top box, and centre stand, etc. Yeah, they're trying to sell them for £9,000. So this is effectively just under £3,000 less. I've just been out. I only did about 20 miles or so. It's been wet out over here in North Devon, and I just wanted to give a few initial impressions or thoughts on the bike, because it's always that first ride that sets the scene for what you're going to make of it as you go forward with more miles. And I'd ridden this as a 500 DSX. Now it's getting kind of complicated because a few years ago Lex Moto started bringing in Voge. It didn't last very long, and one of the bikes they brought in was the 500 DSX. Then something happened with Lex Moto, and they're still selling the 500DX, but then MotoGB picked up Voge, who then started importing the 300 rallies and the soon to come out 900 DSX, and obviously this 525 model. So if you do Google Voge 525 DSX, most likely will come up with the old Lex Moto website trying to sell you the 500. So make sure, if you are looking at one, make sure you're on the right website for the 525. Riding impressions, actually, I've got to say, to me, how I decide whether a bike is good or not, certainly for me, is how it flows and rides down a back road, like a muddy, narrow, single track, overgrown, wet Devon back road. Now, if a bike can ride well in those conditions, it can pretty much ride well anywhere. And I've got to say, this rode it exceptionally well. To say it's got the panniers, the width, the height, it felt light, felt agile, it felt sure-footed, it felt composed, it felt smooth on the brakes, progressive on the brakes. Power is smooth and strong. You know, it's got a strong low to mid-range. It's got good gearing. It means you can work through the box, and 6 is quite tall, so actually I would imagine on the motorway it's going to be quite refined. It's not low geared like I've got the Kawasaki 300 Versys there, which is in 6 before you've even breathed, and so you soon run out of revs or it gets very revvy. Whereas this is nice. You've got gears to accelerate into, and it's only on high speeds you start getting to the taller gears. So to me, the way they've geared it is really well, really good, and which is sometimes at odds with how Chinese bikes are geared. China seems to gear its bikes quite low, so they're quite revvy and they soon get quite buzzy, but this is more relaxed. It steers well, feels neutral. The brakes are really nice, progressive. You get a lot of feel and bite with the brakes. The Nissin brakes, twin disc, which is good to see. You know, it's good to see they've given it good stopping power. The suspension is KYB, which is a Japanese brand, I suspect built in China. There's no way that a Chinese bike would spec Japanese components. It must be a Chinese manufacturer of KYB. That works well. It can get a bit crashy if you get anything too severe, any pothole or anything that's too severe. You can hear a bit of crash to the front, but mainly it's running really slickly and really well, and it gives you good confidence to push on. And that's, to me, the measure of good suspension. Does it absorb the bumps? Yes. Does it allow you to push on through the corners at a pace which suits you and allows you to progress your riding? If it ticks those boxes, then to me that makes it good suspension. The controls are intuitive. The dash is kind of good, but I think it's a bit big for the ugliness that it is. I don't think it needed to be that big. The screen is adjustable. I did push on to speeds more akin to motorway speeds, and it did get a bit of buffeting, so you might want a taller screen. The 8-10mm seat height makes it very manageable to move around. 17.5 litres is full at the minute, so I didn't feel it too top heavy. It's actually quite well balanced. There is a bit of buzz in the engine when you pick up the revs over 4,000. I think that's the reason that they've gone for rubber pegs rather than removable rubber to give a metal base, because I think the peg is absorbing some of the vibration. And I think those pegs do indicate that Voge never saw this as being a true off-road bike. I know they've got pictures on the website saying, or showing it being ridden in the dirt, but it's not that kind of bike. It's too heavy, it's a bit too cumbersome. Yes, you can do a gravel track as I did, a dirt track, but it's not a place you'd want to be. So if you're thinking about buying this as an off-road bike, an equivalent to a Himalayan, for example, or a CF Moto 450 MT, I don't think it is that bike. It is very much a road-based motorcycle, and as it proved today, it will do the back roads really well. It does flow well on the back roads, it does flow well on the A roads, and it will do motorway speeds quite comfortably. So I think it ticks a lot of boxes. I think in terms of quality, you know, some of the plastics are a little bit cheaper, and some of the mouldings and castings and the spray, the painting looks, it looks like it was built to a price, but then it was built to a price. Obviously the comparable Honda is £6,800, but that's very basic spec. You don't even get a cigarette 12-volt charger, whereas you get 12-volt charger and a USB on this. And so everything on the Honda is extra. And to get a spec like this, you're looking at more at £9,000, which is a £3,000 difference. And certainly the Voge is not a £3,000 lesser bike. In fairness, riding them back to back, which I did a few years ago, I had a CB500X with a Rally Race Stage 2 kit, and I rode it back to back with a 500 DSX, the forebearer to this. And actually, in many ways, the Voge was a better bike. It was a better engine, and it was only the finer detail that would maybe elevate the Honda, but only just. And I saw MCN's review of this against the Honda, where I think their conclusion was that the Voge is a better bike, but historically we've got to give it to Honda because it's a Honda. But how long does that, because it's a Honda, last? How many more years can they rely on that age-old corporate value or brand equity that's sort of keeping them alive, keeping them afloat, and allowing them to charge a premium? To me, this rides as well as a Honda. You know, maybe there's a slight bit of polish here and there that could be improved, but in terms of mechanics, there's no way you would say this is a lesser product than the Honda. Maybe in terms of resale value, maybe in terms of, servicing. The issue with this bike a little bit is that service intervals are 3,750. On the Honda it's 8,000. So depending on how many miles you're going to do, it could be an issue. If you're doing a lot of commuting, then obviously you're going to have to service it twice for every once you're going to service the Honda, which is going to eat into that cost saving that you made by buying the Voge. Resale value as well. You know, there's a bit of money to drop on a £6,000 Voge, whereas on a £6,800 Honda, you're probably not going to drop that much. Another little bugbear with the Voge bike, same on the 300 Rally, they're rated only to run E5 petrol, which is the lower ethanol, higher octane fuel, like the premium fuel, which is not only more expensive to buy but harder to get hold of. So in some parts of the country, if you go to Scotland, for example, you won't get the E10, you won't get the E5 petrol. You would have to run it on E10, you know, going against what it says on the petrol can. Now on the Voge 300 Rally, it didn't make a lot of difference. You could notice a little bit after maybe 3 or 4 tanks of the E10. Not a great deal. What's it doing long term? I don't know. You know, I don't know the reasons behind why this is not rated to E10. I suspect possibly it's due to emissions. Higher octane count on the E5 maybe allows it to run a bit more efficiently, which allows it to pass the E5 emissions or Euro 5 emissions. I'm not sure, that's only my speculation, but ideally we'd get some confirmation as to why it won't run a E10 from Voge themselves. Is it because E10 eats through the rubber hoses, or is it down to emissions? I would like to know personally. I think that'd be an interesting thing to know. So based on this initial ride, I think there's a lot to offer. There's a lot of bike here for the money. Does it offer enough excitement? I guess that's my question towards the bike. You know, China are now very good at copying Japanese products, but Japanese products have become slightly soulless. So it would be a shame if China started to copy that soullessness of Japanese motorcycles. I think the CF Moto, the 450 MT, is exceptional because that's they've copied it in terms of, you know, how it feels, how it's put together, but they've given it more of an Italian or European edge, a flair, a personality, which gives it a reason you buy that over anything else. Whereas this, they've copied it really well. They've copied the Japanese really well, and that's great. But other than price, why would I buy it? And I think that's what they possibly need to work on next, because price does sell a bike, and it sold the 300 Rally really well because it was so much cheaper than the equivalent Honda. Yes, spec for spec, the equivalent Honda, this is very expensive, but if you were in a showroom for Voge and you thought, well, maybe for £600 more you can get the Honda, I could see why people would still go towards the Honda, because it's just it's a more safe purchase. This has got great credentials and it's got great spec, but there's a safe purchase over there, and the safe purchase is often very enticing. So I'd never say the Honda's better than this, but safety, you know, which people are safe consumers, they have to be in this day and age, because money's tight and people want to get the most out of their bikes, most money out, most value out of their bikes, which, yes, you could say this has got the best value because it's got the panniers and that, but what's it going to be worth in 2 years' time, more servicing, etc., etc. So there's two different ways of looking at value proposition, and spec and equipment levels is only one, remember. So I don't think it's going to have it easy, this bike, but I can see where anybody who doesn't necessarily have that much value associated with Honda would easily look at this and go, yeah, I'll have one of those instead. I'm getting so much more bike for my money. The Benelli TRK 502 looks quite dated compared to this. I think the MacBore Montana, the Cove 510 could be interesting, but they're shorter dealerships. So I actually think it's a good product. Actually, it's a very good product. It rides really well, and it looks good, doesn't it? It looks like a good big bike. It's priced well, and I think crucially, MotoGP as an importer are doing a great job of bringing in Voge. They lost the importation rights to Royal Enfield. Royal Enfield took it in-house, which was a messy old affair, and I think Royal Enfield stuffed it up somehow. I think they left it customers without warranty work. It was a bit of a messy situation, and in that divorce, MotoGP were able to pick up Voge, which left them, which was great because they had a lot of showroom space to fill and a lot of dealers. So it's allowed them to push and give more support to launching Voge as a brand, which is only a good thing. So I think they've got the right importer, they've got the right bike, they've got a few issues such as the servicing in this E5, but as a bike to ride to enjoy in the first 30 miles, it's hard to pick a great fault. I like the gearbox. The gearbox is really clean and sweet. Clutch action's nice. Brakes are nice, smooth, but give great bite if you need it. The power's good and it feels fast actually. You know, it goes fast enough. I don't think I'd be much quicker on a bigger bike covering cross-country distance. Seat feels comfortable, I think that's going to be fine. The panniers seem pretty sturdy, and then everything else that they bolted on feels decent as well. So it's a good first video. It's first impressions of the bike. We're going to do a slightly longer trip next week. Hopefully go down to Thor in Bodmin and look at that Ryu 500 Adventura. You know, and that's an interesting bike, the 500 Adventure. It's disappeared. And what did we say? The crucial thing with all these bikes, these fledgling bikes, most of them from China, is how good their importer is. Now, as I said, MotoGP are good. The guys who are bringing in the Ryu, I'm not saying they're good or bad, I'm just saying that there are no reviews of that bike. There's been no press rise of it. There's been nothing in MCN. There's nothing to say that it's out and available. And it's a shame because the Ryu Adventura, it's the bike with the 20-litre tank at the front and at the rear, with 21-inch front wheel, 18-inch rear, long travel suspension. You know, it still uses this parallel twin from the Honda. It was the bike that had got the distinction to set it apart from the others. It's coming at £7,500 though, so a little bit pricey. But it doesn't, it feels like it's impossible to see it, to touch it, to ride it. I've desperately tried to get hold of one to ride, but it can't just be me because there's nobody who's ridden one yet. So the crucial thing is the importer with these bikes. It really is. It's a make or break because it's those guys, as I said, who are backing up your warranty work and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we'll see how we go on the next ride. Cheers.